What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Sports Talk on Tab video. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday covering all of four major sports leagues, whether it be NBA, NHL, NFL, MLB, news, highlights, games, tier list, rankings. We're here to do all of it throughout this offseason. And in today's episode of our NBA segment, we're going to talk about coaching, some coaching news that came out yesterday because when we were recording, I forget what the segment was, but we mentioned the Cavaliers didn't have a head coach. But then shortly after, of course, once we say that, it's only right that the Cavaliers officially get their new coach, which will be Kenny Atkinson, who's been kind of, a guy that's been a high-profile name for a while. Obviously, his most recent stint was with an assistant with Golden State, but also head coach with Brooklyn. Probably his best season, I want to say, was the D'Lo Brooklyn Nets when they won, when they just had that magical run, the bench hype, all that fun stuff. And D'Lo had his best season, was an all-star. He had some pretty good years in Brooklyn, and he's been a high-respected name. Now he goes to Cleveland, where they have a lot of interesting decisions there. They've obviously been a top 4 seed the last 4 years. And now you look, Donovan Mitchell hopefully gets re-signed, but there's still some question marks. Do they keep this core together and try with a new coach, or do they trade Darius Garland or, Jarrett Allen? What's the precipice of what they're going to do? It's going to be an interesting season in Cleveland, but they got one of the best assistants in the league. So I think it's a good hire. Not sure how you're feeling about this one, Nick. I know you said you're not too much into the NBA coaching landscape, but I think they needed a change just because JB Bickerstaff wasn't quite getting it done in the playoffs, even though this last year wasn't the Celtics' fault. I take a look back at that Knicks series 2 years ago and just how they lost in 5 games as the higher seed. No matter how good of a team the Knicks were, that was embarrassing.
Yeah, was Kenny Atkinson with Golden State when they won the title in 22?
I believe so.
Just being there and being able to do that, I think is a big boost for not only him but the Cavs. Having a coach who's been there, knows how to
since 2021.
Okay, yeah. So he's been there. He knows, he's seen what it takes to win the big games. He's been around guys like Steve Kerr, who's one of the greater coaches in the league. He's been around players like Curry. He knows how players should carry themselves. Curry's such a role model, leader. So I think it's a good hire for the Cavs to get somebody who knows how to do it. If he inherits Donovan Mitchell, because I'm assuming he's still under contract there for now, and unless he is leaving, because I know we talked about that, I think after the Celtics-Cavs series, we talked about how he might not want to stick around there, but I could be wrong. But if he is able to,
I believe there was rumors obviously last offseason when he didn't sign his extension, but I've seen more rumors that he does want to stay for this season because they finally got over the hump of winning a playoff series that he's kind of taken in Cleveland, because there are rumors he just wanted to go to a big market team like the Knicks or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
We'll see what happens because anything can happen. Obviously, there's a lot of interesting pieces with him, Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, even Evan Mobley, if they want to move off of him, because he's, no matter how great of he is as a defense, if they feel like he can't develop that consistent three-point jump shot with Jarrett Allen not being able to shoot, really how much spacing do you have on the floor for the Cavaliers? So that's an interesting one. And then Kenny Atkinson, overall, I'd give that coaching hire a B+, really solid, A-, one of the best on the market available. Considering we're kind of into the later part of the offseason, we got the draft coming up soon and free agency, so you kind of need to get your coaches in a little bit quicker, I feel like, because now they're gonna have to rush the process of everything.
Exactly.
Who does Kenny Atkinson his draft prospects? It'll all be interesting. And then also some other coaching news I wanted to give because it involved my team. Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch gets a 4-year contract extension that will bring him through the 2027 season. No matter, how, people, feel I think this was a great decision because whether you follow the Timberwolves or don't, this was probably the first time a lot of people realized the Timberwolves were put onto the map. And that's a huge credit to Chris Finch in what he was able to do this season. He was able to make the Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert fit work, which in and of alone, it's impressive of itself, being able to just build that defense the way it was. And I do still have some question marks because he's regarded as an offensive genius, but they rank 17 in offense. But maybe that just comes with playing, Rudy Gobert in too big.
Yeah,
You'll
definitely.
take the sacrifice of being the number one defense for a middle of the pack. But maybe if there's just, some things, obviously no coach is perfect. I still believe he was second or third in coach of the year voting this year. Obviously was a great season. So I'm definitely not mad at it, the way he was able to adjust from the regular season Phoenix Suns to the playoffs and sweep them after getting swept by them in the regular season. So, I'll take that all day. Overall, congrats to him. And I'm excited because he's a good coach. And you lock up some coaches, you lock up one of the best coaches in this league. I know I say that a lot, but maybe say that about a lot of coaches, but this coaching league is really tremendous, and being able to be top three when Joe Mazzulla wasn't even like top three, despite winning 64 games in the championship, goes to show the amount of talent there is in this league in the coaching. So huge for him to get locked up, and I'm proud for him to be the leader, at least for who knows if shit goes south, but at least locked up for at least another 4 or 5 years. But with that being said, Nick, today the episode is mainly targeted towards a statement you made yesterday that you feel like coaching is like the least important in the NBA.
Out of the 4 major sports, and I know I'll probably get heat for this, but from what I've seen and from my knowledge, again, like you just said, like I don't have the extent of coaching knowledge as I do for like football coaches or MLB managers or even, NHL head coaches. But just, I feel like you can kind of throw, for most teams, not all teams, but for most teams, you can throw a halfway decent head coach on a talented team and that team will still be good. Like it's not going to, I don't think a coach is going to make or break your team. Like, let's just say, sorry to interrupt you, but like,
you're good. Cook up.
These guys in the picture, Minnesota's head coach, what's his name?
Chris Finch.
Yeah, I'm just trying to rattle off like coaches I know. Eric Spoelstra. If you put all those guys coaching the Celtics, do you think they still win the championship?
How? So all those coaches you just listed.
Yeah, like if you put Kenny Atkinson, Jason Kidd, do you think like Eric Spoelstra, those guys, like, do you think I know those are like some of the top coaches, so I'm kind of like nitpicking, but I'm just trying to say, like, I think if you have a really good player,
I could say yes. I think they could.
And that is no disrespect to Joe Mazzulla. Like I love Joe Mazzulla, and I hope he's our coach for a long time. Like I think he's perfect for Boston. We saw him getting hype at the parade or whatever, but I just think this is not a me disrespecting NBA head coaches. I think this is a me saying talent in the NBA is more I don't know the word for it. Like if you have a talented guy, you're going to win games regardless of, like, in the MLB, we saw it with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, 2 best players in the league, didn't win anything. NFL, you can have an incredibly good receiver, don't win anything. NHL, you can have, a crazy good line, not win anything. Like, but in the NBA, I think all you might need is 1 or 2 really good players, and maybe that's just because it's 5-on-5. It's not like the NHL where you're constantly rotating guys in and out, or MLB is much more mentally driven, as well as it takes all 9 guys in your lineup, pitchers, blah blah blah. And NFL is obviously such a team oriented sport that no one player can ever win you a game by himself. So that's kind of my take on it. And I could be called a moron. I've faced some heat before this, but I just think if I was to make a list of like coaching importance per league, I'd put 1, NFL, 2, I want to put MLB, but I'm going to put NHL because just MLB, we've seen like, I'm just going to say the Yankees with Aaron Boone. Like, I don't think Aaron Boone's that good of a manager, yet the Yankees are, putting together good seasons every year just because, I think MLB, you can still win games with some talent, just not a championship. So I'd say NHL is 2, MLB's 3, and then NBA would be 4 for me. You might have a different opinion, so I'll let you, talk on it.
All right. I want to counter a couple of your points.
Okay.
For the MLB, you brought up your segment of the Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. The Angels didn't win anything, not because of a manager or them two. It's because the rest of the team was dog shit. They had no pitching.
That's what I mean, though. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
but it wasn't a talent.
We saw LeBron take so many teams to the finals, just, like dog shit teams, just because he was LeBron. And I know that's LeBron, so I won't like.
People question that more so because like the East strength. The strength of the East during that time was kind of rough. And even though he did, sometimes talent does play with these super teams we saw in the NBA, but you still got to coach a team. We saw it took Eric Spoelstra a year before they ultimately won the championship with the Big Three because Rick Carlisle just outcoached Eric Spoelstra in that series. And obviously LeBron infamously, kind of didn't perform well, but that was due partially to coaching and what they were doing in that series. I do think it comes down still to coaching because I think Joe Mazzulla took a much higher leap his second season into his second season from his first season, because last year he did make a lot of mistakes. Yep. He wasn't calling timeouts efficiently enough, but he was able to make those, and it's those little things. I feel like I remember game 1, Dallas got to within 8. They were just using timeouts efficiently during that comeback, and in game 2. And I remember Jason Kidd was against the Timberwolves. Whenever the Timberwolves felt like they had a little bit of momentum, timeout. And I feel like NBA, there's so much good coaching that involves in it. And I look back, like Nick Nurse with the Raptors, the infamous wall he built after going down 0-2 to the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals to help stop MVP Giannis in the 1 seed Bucks, and went rattling off 4 straight. That was a huge coaching adjustment. Frank Vogel, what he did with that Los Angeles Lakers defense after the Lakers missed the playoffs the year before, that was a huge thing. For me, it's comfortably last. MLB is the least. I've even seen just like from like different things in the Twins thing, clubhouse, the manager say, yeah, like most of the time it's like, you just let the players play. And, you kind of are just there for the ride, it feels like. And maybe you obviously have to do some things to, get better or to make the team get better and get a spark. But obviously it's a lot of the time for me if you can hit that ball or not. And, how are you adjusting at the plate yourself mentally? And I think the example you brought up of Aaron Boone, he might not be the best manager, but they've still went to multiple ALCS and they've just lost to a better Astros team. It's been the Astros have just been more talented, the better team, and that's why they've won in like those 7-game series. And then, I just feel like the MLB, you don't do a lot of managing, coaching. We've just seen a lot because even this year, Joe Mazzulla, if he doesn't take that next step, like there was a lot of close games with that Pacers series where Rick Carlisle could have outcoached him if it was year 1 Joe Mazzulla, which, could have gone 6-7 games, or even in that Dallas series where Jason Kidd could have just outcoached him if Dallas was going on these long runs and Joe Mazzulla wasn't learning from his mistakes in that Miami Heat series, or even that Hawks series where almost went 7 games and the Hawks were the 7th seed. So coaching, it still takes a lot of good work. Even like we saw Eric Spoelstra get the Heat last year as the 8th seed to the finals because of a coaching masterclass in each of those series, and just kind of picking on one coach at a time. So there's definitely a lot of I still think NBA is really important. Them in hockey is kind of 50-50 for me. I don't really know how much you can do behind the bench. I'd still think I'd put NBA like 2 or at the very worst 3.
Okay. I mean, yeah, you make good points, and I said I don't have the fullest extent of knowledge of NBA coaching, so I'm definitely willing to listen and learn. And you made good points about Spoelstra and how much Missoula grew. So you definitely are right on those points, and maybe I'll switch up my thing and say MLB managers take more of a step back than NBA coaches. My thing with MLB managers is they got to be able to pull the right strings more so than anything. And I think NBA coaches are much more hands-on with their teams. Same with NHL. That's why you probably put them 50-50 because, they're setting the plays. They're probably setting, the defensive schemes or whatever, how you're going to attack, how you're going to defend. MLB managers are more so, using this pitcher at the right time, taking this guy out at the right time, pinch hitting at the right time. So you do make a good point there. So I guess I might switch up my point and say that, I maybe disrespected NBA coaches a little too much, and that's on me. And maybe I think I've been kind of I'll say I've been brain rotted by LeBron and how
I was about to say
whenever he's the coach on his team. That's kind of what I always go back to.
GM is what they call him.
So maybe that's my fault for only considering that and not considering the other coaches in the NBA and the work they do, because I do think Erik Spoelstra is one of, if not the best coach in the league.
Yeah, no, and I do think every head coaching position matters. Even though I have him over
right, exactly.
Like you said, it is a numbers game. But sometimes I've seen managers that say screw the numbers. If this hitter's feeling hot, we're gonna ride him against this lefty on lefty matchup. Or do you take the right-hander? Because like I get sick and tired of seeing like Max Kepler having to get pulled for the Twins for fucking Kyle Farmer, who's hitting like 200 because he's a righty, lefty on righty.
Right.
Like,
no, I get what you
the
mean.
The numbers thing. I get it,
That's what lost the Rays that COVID World Series is Kevin Cash pulled Blake Snell when he gave up one hit, and he's like, well, the analytics say this guy's going to get a hit off you. And it's just like that. I'm 100% on your side of that the analytics in baseball is absolute BS. And I know it's coming into basketball because I was watching sports talk shows after the Celtics, and like that's a big part of Missoula. That's why their whole offense is 3-and-D or whatever you want to call it. I don't know like the exact thing, but like if you make a certain percentage of threes, like your win percentage is going to go up this much, blah blah blah. Like I know Missoula, being a younger guy, is more of an analytics driven guy. So I mean it does work, but no, I totally agree with you. Baseball is not a game where you can heavily rely on a computer to make the decisions for you. Like you got to see if a guy's, I'll just say Max Kepler, like you said, for example, say Max Kepler, is on a 10-game hitting streak, hitting the shit out of the ball, and then all of a sudden a lefty comes in. You're going to pull him just because he's a lefty? Like, no, you've seen the baseball well. I don't think, and that drives me nuts. So you are absolutely right in that point.
Yeah. Thank you. What was it? Yeah, just kind of, touch it up on the NBA coaching. And I think, this playoffs, we didn't see it quite in the back half. We just saw it. But even then, we saw Mavericks were underdogs against the Timberwolves in the WCF. Jason Kidd just dialed up an offensive game plan that worked really well, just kind of letting Luke and Kyrie cook. And Chris Finch, didn't make the coaching adjustments necessary. And that's kind of, where you notice a difference when each team may have the same talent, but, the Mavericks want you to play the certain way, and they fell for that. And, part of it sometimes is on the players because, maybe if Carl hits some shots, the series goes differently. Maybe Chris Finch looks like a genius. I don't know. But it was, I just remember like the earlier on in the playoffs, just like how quickly series shifted. Timberwolves Nuggets, Mike Malone. After those first two games, a lot of people were calling Stephen A. Smith infamously said, the Nuggets were getting swept in the second round. But Mike Malone, the adjustments he was able to make of, pushing the ball up quicker and just, the little things, make Aaron Gordon the ball handler going up the court instead of Jamal Murray to take the pressure off Jamal Murray. It's the little things and those kind of adjustments that, help flip a series. And the Nuggets ended up winning the next 3 before the Timberwolves made their own adjustments to that. So there's kind of, these chess matches are so fun to watch in the NBA playoffs. But ultimately, sometimes, it does come down to talent. At some point, the Celtics were just straight up better than the Mavericks and more talented. But Joe Mazzulla, I also think, took a huge step where maybe, the Pacers series goes 6 or 7 games if Joe Mazzulla doesn't coach, if he makes the same coaching mistakes like he did against the Miami Heat. And then, who the hell knows from there. So
I think you just brought up some points that, that's just stuff I don't even notice, basketball was the last sport I've got into. I really got into basketball in I want to say 2016, 2017, the Isaiah Thomas years. That's when I really started watching it. So
that was a huge year for Celtics fans.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first time in, since Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, that we were actually decent. So, but that's the little stuff that you just made points I don't even notice, who's bringing the ball up, the behind the scenes stuff that I guess I would call myself, not a hardcore basketball fan compared to, even yourself or someone else, some crazy basketball fan who knows so much about it. That's the stuff I don't even notice is who's bringing up the ball, who's inbounding the ball, stuff like that the coaches do draw up, all the behind the scenes stuff. So I guess going into this video, I had one mindset, but coming out of this video, I had another. That NBA coaches, they have a much more importance than I believed, and you talked me, off of that bridge or whatever you want to call it. So
that's what I do, man.
I'll tip my cap to you. So you changed my mind on NBA coaching. Yeah. Because you're right. I think last year Joe Mazzulla does not. He probably finds a way to at least extend.
It's a hell of a lot more difficult.
Yeah, you're probably going 6 or 7 games for most of those series, especially like Indiana. Yep. I think you lose at least 2 of those games with last year Joe Mazzulla. Game
3 of those, game 5, game 6, possibly game 7. What the hell happens?
Yeah, so. And the game against Dallas where the Celtics were up 30 and Dallas cut it to 8. I think Joe Mazzulla finds a way last year to kind of
maybe they F that up, that it's 2-2.
Right.
That's how quickly. Or that game 3 when Mavericks were racing back. What the hell does Joe Mazzulla is probably freaking out. Who knows what the hell happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is sometimes the little things, but overall, great segment. Kind of recapping some coaching news. How important is it coaching? But with that being said, make sure to like, subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Exciting time in the NBA. I believe the NBA draft starts tomorrow night. And then we also have free agency shortly coming up in a couple of days. So it's an exciting time for every NBA team. And we'll obviously be here to recap all that. But make sure to like, subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.